What's happening, Reject Nation? I'm Greg.
I'm John.
We're gonna watch from The Cosmic Wonder, AntMan 3 plot leak, new villain, and Young Avengers. Haven't reacted to a Cosmic Wonder video in a while. Go through the archives of Cosmic Wonder. Sometimes he's wrong. There's actually been a good amount of times where he's reported on leaks that were right. Now, am I lying or am I telling the truth?
Yes.
No, but seriously, there have been times where he's right. But sometimes I'm lying.
A broken clock lies at least 5 times.
Let's just see what he has to say.
Okay.
But he can be right a lot of the time. Go follow it.
How's it going, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to my channel, The Cosmic Wonder.
Yeah, whatever, you fucking liar. I'm sorry.
And today we have some AntMan.
Hi, Warren.
Some news about the production of AntMan 3, when it's supposed to start, and when we can expect to actually see AntMan 3 on the big screen. And then, of course, we have an AntMan 3 plot leak. A plot leak that involves a new hero, a new villain, and
Whatever you have to say about
predicted for a very long
release date.
Especially after Avengers Endgame.
Let's just hold off on it.
A pretty pivotal movie for setting up the Young Avengers, especially with Cassie
Lang,
daughter, who goes on to be Stature in the comics. So we'll talk about these new reports of the production.
Will we get Lawrence Fishburne as Goliath?
Including the new characters and new villain. A villain that links back to Phase 2 of the Marvel Cinematic
The best
Malekith!
If you're new, be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on everything relating to the MCU, and so you can enter this week's giveaway for a chance to win a Doctor Doom Funko Pop. All you have to do to enter is subscribe to my channel, like this video, leave a comment about the video down below.
I'll just buy it.
Recently fans were kind of confused and kind of disappointed because not too long ago, Michael Douglas in an interview was talking about AntMan 3, and he said that we'd have some news relatively soon. But unfortunately, we really haven't heard much in regards to AntMan 3. Now,
I wonder
during
why.
the time that we're in right now, it's rather difficult for all of the studios because they've had to put a lot of projects on hold. But Marvel Studios reshuffled their entire Phase 4 lineup, including some movies that aren't a part of Phase 4 like Captain Marvel 2. But we got no word about AntMan 3. That is, until now. Recently, Charles Murphy of Murphy'sMultiverse.com shared a little bit of information that he heard in regards to AntMan 3 and its starting production. And Charles Murphy says, as of now, AntMan 3 has been rescheduled to begin production in June of 2021 in Atlanta.
That's really happening.
Just a little less than a year away from now. And as far as when to expect the actual film hitting theaters if everything goes back to normal, he says AntMan 3 has not been canceled and is absolutely still in the plans. If, by some miracle, everything stays on track and long-term shutdowns are avoided, we could see AntMan 3 in theaters late 2022 or early 2023. Which is kind of great news because obviously we have to get through Marvel's Phase 4 before we go on to the projects that are not a part of Phase 4.
Gotta get through it.
2022 or early 2023 is pretty good news for the Ant-Man fans. And speaking of some good news, we have a plot leak for AntMan 3 today. Now, this plot leak was discovered by ScreenGeek.com, and like with all leaks, they could be true or they may not be true, so take it with a grain of salt. But as most of you know, we have discovered many true plot leaks on my channel, including some for Avengers Infinity War.
Yes,
and
it's
Avengers
true.
Endgame.
It's true.
But let's dive into this.
Far From Home as well.
So it starts off by saying AntMan 3 will be about Cassie leaving her family to be an Avenger, with Scott and Hope trying to stop her. Now, this is something that's actually been brought up several different times. Now, in Ant-Man and the Wasp, we saw a young Cassie who wanted to be a superhero. She wanted to help her father fight crime. Now, of course, obviously, she was too young at that point in time, but then in Avengers Endgame, we see a more grown-up Cassie Lang.
I don't remember this scene at all.
Now this adds up with everything that we've heard before about Cassie Lang. What we've heard in the past is that Cassie now wants to be a superhero following in her father's footsteps, but her father and Hope do not want to let her. Obviously, as any good parents would not let their children go out and take on supervillains, but apparently this movie is going to be about her kind of running away from them, going to be an Avenger, and them trying to stop her. Now, of course, Cassie is not going to initially go on to join the normal Avengers. She's going to join the Young Avengers. And in the comics, actually plays a pretty important role on the team of the Young Avengers as Stature. Now, it sounds like we could be getting a little bit of the story from the comics. In the comics, her parents really don't want her to have anything to do with the Avengers, but Cassie idolizes the heroes, especially after watching her father as AntMan. But she begins to experiment with some Pym particles that she takes from her father. Cassie
That
plans
damn
on
Pym
escaping
particle.
and running away to join Marvel's Runaways. But then she discovers the Young Avengers, and she would eventually go on to join them.
These guys are way cooler.
Bigger franchise.
The Young Avengers with Cassie going off on her own, trying to be a superhero, then maybe by the end of the
Bigger
movie,
franchise.
figuring out that there is a Young Avengers team. After all, we do have Wiccan and Speed, the daughter of Wanda and Vision, coming in the WandaVision series. We have Kate Bishop coming in to take on the mantle of Hawkeye.
We have Iron Boy.
Expects Iron Lad to come in.
Iron Lad. Iron Boy.
We know about Miss Marvel.
Get the name right.
Iron
Boy Iron.
Going to come into the MCU. It's only a matter of time, and it looks like Ant-Man 3 is going to be one of the films
Iron
that set that team up.
Baby.
So, in Ant-Man 3, we're going to have Cassie Lang run off and try to be a hero on her own. But of course, she's going to need help from her father, Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man, and Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp. Cassie will most likely get in over her head, and then of course Ant-Man.
I think
and
you
the
got
Wasp.
that wrong, buddy.
And speaking of them needing to help
Fake
her,
nerd.
we do talk
Warren?
about the villain in this leak as well. They say that as far as the leak goes, the villain of Ant-Man 3 is Modok. And if you're unfamiliar with
Oh,
who
sweet.
he was once
Not bad.
George
What?
Tarleton, a man of unspectacular.
That could get people to watch Ant-Man 3.
Yeah. And play the Avengers game.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, that's crazy.
And he was used in experiments to enhance mental powers.
Wow,
And Modok
that'd be
is
cool.
actually an acronym that stands for Mental Organism Designed Only for Killing. Now, there are some really important things to note here about this villain and about AIM. We have had several rumors that Modok will be entering the MCU pretty soon, and it just so happens that the director and screenwriters for Ant-Man 3 have publicly stated their interest in having him in the film. And AIM already exists in the MCU, and this is the really important part because we have it in the past. In the
That's
MCU,
why Aldrich
Phase
Killian,
2, we've actually
that's why he's saying
already
Phase
seen it
2.
In Phase 4 in a trailer. Now, if you recall, back in
Really?
Iron Man 3, back in Phase 2, they mentioned AIM. Aldrich Killian was actually running that faction. And of course, if you've seen the movie, you know that they've already begun to do experiments on actual individuals all the way back then.
Extremis.
So AIM has existed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for several years now. And we know that Marvel loves to tie everything back together. Marvel plans ahead years and years in advance, and they plant seeds very early on that finally sprout later on, years later. So they're definitely going to be referencing these events of Iron Man 2. Plus, not to mention the Mandarin, the real
Iron
Mandarin
Man
is
3.
coming in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and of course we had that fake Mandarin in Iron Man 3 as well. So Ant-Man and the Wasp are definitely going to have some callbacks to Iron Man 3. And as I mentioned before, we've actually seen AIM in a Phase 4 project already because we've seen
When?
AIM in one of the trailers for Black Widow. It's in the final trailer for Black Widow,
Where?
or what they were calling the final trailer at the time, as we know that there are actually 2 more trailers coming relatively soon.
When?
There's a
Jeez.
scene where Yelena Belova, Natasha's sister in the film, is strapped down to a table.
I should have come back for you.
So just based off of the clip, you probably have missed it, but it was actually Charles Murphy who discovered it in the past. He said, through the magic of flipping the picture, you might see the word AIM above Yelena's noggin. This is almost certainly after the big final fight, since she's wearing the same outfit. And as you can see, if we freeze this picture and we take a look, you can see the words AIM right next to her. And she also happens to be on an operating table, and in this same scene, we see somebody about to give her a shot. She also has lines upon her head, which lead people to believe that maybe a face swap is happening here, but that's a video for
With
another day.
Guy
The point is, we clearly
Pearce.
see the word AIM
That's
right next to her in this
sexy.
scene, and it looks like it's AIM who's going to be operating on her in whatever is happening here, confirming that AIM definitely still does exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Why wouldn't
so
they?
AIM has existed and has been doing experiments on people since Iron Man 3, back in Phase 2, and now we have proof of
And
that being
they're
in
really
Phase 4.
controlling
So he
Hydra.
does
Oh.
from Modok Modok to enter in Ant-Man 3. In fact, in Ant-Man and the Wasp, there was the mention of a mysterious benefactor, and we never found out who that was.
That's
Marvel would
true.
not mention somebody like that just to keep him in the dark and never explain who he was. He's definitely going to be brought into light, and most likely in Ant-Man 3 because they mentioned him in Ant-Man and the Wasp. So many people right now do believe that this mysterious benefactor could be Modok, and this is going to be the main
That'd be
villain
gnarly.
in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
That'd be
and
gnarly.
Stature, as people are calling it right now. Let's face it, that title just makes sense. But this will be the villain that Cassie will initially go after herself, but of course will eventually need the help of her father, Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man, and Janet Van Dyne, aka the Wasp. So if all of this comes true, and all of it does seem to line up, so it looks like it probably will, we're going to get a new character in the form of Scott Lang's daughter, Cassie Lang, taking on her superhero role of Stature,
Played by
and we're going to get
Zazie
a new
Beetz.
villain, Modok, the mental organism
Zoe
designed only
Kravitz.
for killing. So let me know, what do you think about this plot leak? Is this something that you would like to see in Ant-Man 3? Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to stay up to date on all things relating to the
will.
Marvel Cinematic Universe. For live updates, you
think
can
I'll
follow me on
subscribe.
Twitter, and as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.
Thanks, Warren. Thanks, Warren.
Woof.
I believe you.
Warren.
Everything that's being stated here sounds very plausible.
Nah, I don't buy it.
Yeah, me neither.
These leaks, man. Can't trust them.
I believe everything here but the fact that it says AIM in that Black Widow trailer. That's the only thing that has no evidence to support.
Nah, you could easily Photoshop that, Warren.
Yeah, Warren.
Yeah, fake news.
Cassie Lang becoming an important character, being like the central focus in terms of the main characters for Ant-Man 3, seems like the step that this specific franchise would go. This whole franchise has been so family-based, with Scott Lang being the one who's kind of outside of the family.
Yeah, his own and the Pym family.
The last one, you know, it seemed like the heart and soul of it, most of the focus was on Hope, Janet, Hank. To bring it back, I think, full circle for an Ant-Man 3, and with where we left off with Avengers Endgame, what comics fans know of Cassie Lang's future in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what it could potentially be, it just seems like the right step. It seems like the perfect step. I'd be honestly very surprised if they don't do anything with her.
Yeah.
In terms of just, she's Scott Lang's daughter. You know, they have to do something a lot more with her to bring her to this point of stature. At least teasing it or setting up for it, if not, you know, being part of it. They have the 5-year time jump too, so she's a little bit older at this point based off of where we left off with her in Endgame.
Well, you would think that's one of the factors in deciding that. One of the
Yeah.
many factors is, oh yeah, we could start our Young Avengers even that much sooner and have it be
Exactly.
plausible. You know?
Exactly. And I think with Modok being the villain, it could probably be Ant-Man's biggest film because these films are so interesting to me. They're the most underperforming ones, especially the way how Ant-Man and the Wasp was received with its box office returns. They're hits. They're still hits.
Yeah.
They're just not the hits
mega
that
hits.
MCU expects for themselves, you know?
Isn't that a great problem to have, to
Yeah.
be winning so hard that a still pretty solid win is your failure?
I don't know. I get the impression that even if they're not the biggest hits, that Marvel's still like, but we like it, man.
That is the exact tone I get from them. And I'm actually kind of happy that this exists, because even though Ant-Man is still a very expensive, you know, like large-scale movie, they do appear to be on the smaller end of that scale. And I do appreciate that somebody like Marvel, who doesn't have to invest in those things, who could go, we want to invest in something that's going to equal megatons more money.
Yeah.
But the fact that they might still, you know, dedicate that TLC to a character like this is just, I think, a nice thing, because also I think Ant-Man does occupy an interesting corner of this world, and I think this is kind of a perfect idea for Ant-Man 3 because of what you said. Basically, Scott is often left being on the outsider of his own franchise, and so if you have, you know, even if it's not necessarily just about her wanting to run away, but if you have some kind of aspect where, you know, they're confronting the fact that she has powers, it gives something directly for Scott to work on that's like completely tied to him, that's emotional, that could have physical stakes. And now I'm just sitting here thinking, like, for every like okay Marvel franchise, it's gonna be part 3 where they make it like the most important one of this phase.
Well, it could be the Thor Ragnarok of the franchise to a certain extent.
Yeah, I hope it is.
I mean, you could go even trippier, you know, with it.
Totally, with the quantum realm and all that.
One thing that bums me out in terms of hearing about this is, you know, you got Lawrence Fishburne's character in the previous one, and maybe they'll do something where Louis gets to become Goliath or whatever. I don't know. I think that'd be really funny. I don't see it happening because I like that Luis is just.
Oh my gosh.
He's just himself. You know.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can certainly see, especially a la a Ragnarok kind of tone, I could definitely see Luis getting some kind of super upgrade, but at the same time, part of his charm is just that is his super specialty, is his ability to uncannily relate scenarios back to you as hilarious stories.
And with Modok being the villain, we saw the Avengers trailers for the game that's coming out, and Modok looks like a real formidable foe to go up against. And he's a character who definitely fans have wanted to make an appearance, especially considering its relation of AIM with Iron Man 3. And I think this would be perfect for him to be in here, not just to elevate the Ant-Man franchise. Think about it in this terms. AIM was introduced in Iron Man 3. And that was Tony Stark versus Aldrich Killian, essentially. Well, we all wanted the Mandarin, but it was versus Aldrich Killian.
I wanted Aldrich Killian.
The head of AIM at the time. And then if they're doing Black Widow, which has a little bit more of the world building with AIM infused, and then Modok is a much trippier character than whatever Aldrich Killian was working on with whatever Aldrich Killian was working on with Extremis. Bring it back to here where you got Hank Pym, who has always been on the opposite side of Howard Stark. You know, they're both really big geniuses, but they were rivals in a way. So if you have this storyline where you have Hank Pym's involvement here going up against AIM, I just feel like there's a nice little marriage here of stories happening where Iron Man 3, Tony Stark going up against AIM, and then here Ant-Man 3, Hank Pym going up against AIM. I mean, it won't be like Hank fighting personally, but he'll be involved. He will be, you know?
Totally. Well, and it seems like it makes sense because, I mean, even though Tony Stark is, like a tech science genius and stuff, this does seem like the side of the universe that is about scientists, like the whole last movie was about them, like, carrying their lab around, and there's a lot of science stuff worked into the plot all around, and with the way that the previous two Ant-Man films have also not quite gone for the same type of, like, we gotta punch the big bad sort of structure that the last couple have. I like the idea that you would have this formidable, again, scientific entity with both AIM and Modok, because you could do something that's just as villainous and large scale, but that isn't the same kind of set piece that we've seen, and that will, not only call upon the fun stuff about Ant-Man, but also the more science stuff about that world and of those characters.
It's hard not to believe this leak. There's nothing in this leak that seems off.
It seems very practical.
It's like the only surprising part about it is having Modok in there. And that's only surprising because I wouldn't expect the Ant-Man franchise to be gifted such a such a grand villain for the MCU. Just because of usually the smaller scale. That's the surprising part about it, yet it's one of those surprises that if it's true, it makes sense.
It does.
So that's why I would love it.
And I think it's a smart business move because if it is a success for Ant-Man 3 and it is an event bigger than the previous two, it'll also inspire people to go back and watch the previous two more, thus increasing the returns of those films.
And then more people watch Disney Plus because Marvel plans
the main
years down the road.
Besides the Mandalorian.
Marvel has it planned for when Kevin Feige passes on, and then his great-grandchildren will inherit Marvel Phase 8. Because that's all we'll be at, apparently.
He's got holographic recordings of himself dictating, like, all 100 phases of the MCU for years to come.
The holographic recording that Tony gives to Morgan at the end of Endgame is...
It's also
inspired by a real life thing Kevin Feige has set up.
Yeah, they cut it before it just runs the whole MCU time. By then, we'll just be able to upload his consciousness into a computer.
I can't wait.
And he'll never die.
Anyway, guys, if this plot leak is to be true, and cool, she's gonna be in Young Avengers. Big surprise. That sounds awesome. All right, if this plot leak is to be true, what do you think about it? Personally, I think it's awesome. You guys can subscribe to Cosmic Wonder, subscribe to The Real Rejects, click the notification bell to get notified whenever we got a YouTube video up. And last but not least, let's do a... I want to shout out Cameron French today. Got a special relationship with this guy. On his Instagram, he does incredible list posts and reviews of movies, Cameron's movie reviews. What I love about this individual is every time we do a live stream, he never chimes in on the live stream. Completely absent the entire time. But if we do a topic, say like sequels we want movies to, he will message me a list of like 45 movies the next day. He doesn't say, saw your topic. He'll just go like, movies I want sequels to, and then just send me an enormous list of films. Doesn't comment on the live stream. You don't need a super chat or anything. You could say something there if you want.
This
You
list
could just,
in there.
just drop the list.
Even
in
as
the
one
comment
comment.
boxes. He doesn't do it. And the reason why he's able to send me so many is because the man is well informed and well knowledgeable. So trust me, you will not regret following him on his Instagram page. See you guys.